Now, our guest today is Derek LePage. Now, he's been on a couple times before, and we've talked about something extremely important. And so, in fact, it's so important, I actually wrote an article in Natural Awakenings in October about it, and I'm writing another one that'll come out. I believe it appears in December. And it's a follow-up because I've been using this product that we're about to talk about for a very long time, and I've seen remarkable results. So our guest today is Derek LePage. He's one of the founders of the company that distributes this product. The product is called Carbon 60. It's also known as C60 and Buckyballs and Buckminster Fullerenes. And so without any further ado, let me bring on our guest, Derek LePage. Good morning. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Richard. I'm great, thank you, and thank you for having me on again to talk about this amazing product. And the product is called Vitality C60. So
that's right. We should make that point because all carbon 60s are not equal. Exactly. And we'll get into the separation between the qualities momentarily, but let's just talk about what carbon 60 does, because this is more than a big deal. And by the way, folks, this is not something I'm treating lightly. This is something I take every single day. I may have missed a day once in a while, but I'm on my fourth bottle. I just started my fourth bottle on November 4th, and this is something that I will take for the rest of my life. I think it's that important. I think the impact on your quality of life and the future things that could happen to you are that important. So let's talk about what Vitality C60 is and why this is why am I talking so, enthusiastically about it?
Right. It's quite an amazing, discovery that they've identified this molecule, and now with the ongoing anecdotal results that people are seeing with this, and they've also now patented this as a cancer treatment for pets. I wanted to put that out there, and we're also going to be introducing, we have actually just brought out a C60, Vitality C60 for pets as well. I've been giving it to my dog, and my colleagues have been giving it to their pets, and I can already see a difference in how my dog's 11 years old. She's a shepherd, so she was starting to get a little slower and wasn't as active, didn't want to play, sometimes would, limp a bit if she did do some running. Since she's been using it now for about a month and a half.
Let's talk about that, and we'll get back to the dogs in a moment, but
okay.
Let's talk about what Carbon 60, the benefit of Carbon 60 is, because I think that's much more relevant to most of the audience.
Yeah, well, you're right, and the benefit of taking Carbon 60 is life-changing. It literally will prolong your life. It will get rid of the oxidative stress around your cells, helps to get rid of the inflammation in the body. It works as a free radical scavenger, and it really does help repair your body at a cellular level. It gets right into the mitochondria, gets rid of the oxidative stress in the cell, allows that cell to function properly and continue to have a longer lifespan.
Well, speaking of longer lifespan, there actually is a study that proves this out. In 2012, It was published. It's known as the BATI study. But the BATI study, B-A-A-T-I, looked at using Carbon 60 versus olive oil by itself and using a control group of rats. And they were able to determine that if you took Carbon 60 in olive oil, not just the olive oil alone, but Carbon 60 in olive oil at certain levels, you could increase the lifespan of rats 90%. I think it was mice, but mice and rats look the same to me. And what they found was that 90% improvement on longevity. It was published. It was a groundbreaking, astronomical study that caught everybody unaware, and nobody's refuted the science. That's the beauty of it. Nobody's refuted the science. Everybody agrees this study is the quintessential study on Carbon 60 and longevity. Go forward.
Yeah, and if you want to read some of those studies, you can go to our website, vitalityc60.com, and all of those studies have been posted on there. And the one you're referring to was the time-dependent variation of the blood distribution of C60 in rats, determining by liquid, and I can't even pronounce that name. But if you go to the website, if you go to our website, you'll be able to read the study. And yeah, when scientists did this study, and they identified that it was making these rats live twice as long, that was a game changer for everyone. And that's when the health industry became aware of it and realized the potential of it for anyone that used it.
That's right.
And literally everybody that uses this product.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, everyone that uses this product will get benefit from it, without a doubt.
Well, you personally had some, which we'll get to momentarily as well.
Yeah.
But I became aware of it somewhere about the same time as the Bhatti study, and I don't know if I heard about the Bhatti study first, and then I heard about carbon 60 or vice versa. But it was around that same time. It was around 2012, 2013 that I heard about it. And people would ask me, because in my business, a lot of scientists come to me, a lot of forward-thinking people when it comes to nutrition come to me, and a lot of the customers that come to me expect me to know things that others don't. And so, you know, we're in the echelon of significance as far as knowledge. We're way up on the list. So people come up to Simply Natural. They expect us to know. So they would ask me about carbon 60. And I would say, it's not ready for prime time. And they would say, well, what do you mean? I said, well, the studies are out there. It's a very powerful thing, but no one's making it correctly. Well, how do you know they're not making it correctly? Do you make it? I said, no, I don't make it. But here's what I know, that it has to be avoiding light, and it has to avoid oxygen. And everybody's selling it in a dropper bottle. Right there, they're compromising the quality of the product. Even if they start with the right product, by exposing it constantly to light and oxygen, they're going to ruin the raw material. So I said, this can't be the right product. I don't want to have people buy it. Not to mention it was exorbitantly priced, and the milligrams were too low. And I knew from the studies that you needed high milligrams, relatively high, not high in the sense like you would think, but high compared to what they were offering. And I said, so this wasn't ready for prime time. And people got mad at me or said, okay, well, tell me something else I should do. And I would tell them. But, you know, one of the things I've always prided our store on is that, you know, if something's not ready, you don't just throw it out there just to throw it out there. If the science is good but the product doesn't match the science, then you don't sell the product. So It took years and years and years, and actually accidentally. You know, some of the best things happen accidentally. And you and I have been doing business on other products for numbers of years. And you brought me out of the blue the Carbon 60, the Vitality 60. And I don't even remember how you brought it up to my attention, but you got my attention immediately. Go ahead.
Well, I think it was the fact that the study, the rat study, really caught my attention. That's what really got me interested in trying the product. And the scientist who makes our product, he has worked with Carbon 60 for many years, and he has a process that's unique, and it's different than a lot of the processes that most people use to make or suspend the Carbon 60 in the oil. And the way he does it, it gives it a higher concentration of C60. Most C60s out there maybe have 80 milligram strength, 100 milligrams. I think I've seen some maybe up to 150.
I've seen most of them under 50.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It is under 50, a lot of them. Ours is 220 and 440. We have two different milligram strengths. And you don't need to use a lot of it. You know, we only have, and it's in a medical grade pump container, so it disperses the exact amount, 2 milligrams per pump, and based on your weight, somebody 180 pounds would do 3 pumps, so 6 milligrams. Somebody over 200 would use 8 milligrams. And those bottles come in a 50 milliliter size, and it usually lasts anywhere from a month and a half to 2 months for the bottle.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I take 4 pumps a day. I weigh about 200 pounds, but I don't want the equivalent of 180, so I go to the 240. And so literally it lasts me, each bottle lasts me 55 days. So, because it's 220 pumps in a bottle. But getting back to this for a second, the person that, and in fact, we've had him on the air a couple times, Mladen is a world-class scientist. See, one of the things that I liked about this version of Carbon 60 is why I went to this version. He's a real scientist.
Yeah, actually, Richard, he's on the line as well. If you wanted to bring him in at some point.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah,
well, bring him
he
on.
is also. Sure.
But here's the thing. So he's a real scientist, not a pseudoscientist, and as such, and he's an engineer. And when you come from a certain mindset, you know how to make things, and you know how to make them with precision, and you know what needs to be protected, what doesn't. And in his case, he had the equipment to do it correctly, which is one of the reasons why he has such a unique product, both in concentration and in quality, and then, of course, in delivery. So it was more important for him to make it correctly for his own, his own purposes, for his own, his own respect for himself and his own, value to the scientific community. So they had to make sure that the product was made correctly. So, and he did. So, anyway, Mladen, give us a little rendition about you.
Well, hi. Nice to talk to you again, Richard. Can you hear me?
Are you there?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, it's morning over here. Yeah, the whole thing hinges on the dispersion technology. We have a pilot production facility here for solar panels like 10, 12 years ago. So we have to have a pristine environment in order to, induct the C60 into this polymer that we were utilizing as an active layer. The big thing is oxygen. Oxygen kills everything. So what we did is we disperse it under a nitrogen blanket. But what we did was we oversaturate the solution, and we came up with a method to get the actual particles to repel each other, and they'll remain in a perpetual suspension, similar to a colloidal suspension, indefinitely. But, typically what other people do is they'll use a magnetic stirrer, and they'll stir the product, for 2 weeks or so, or 1 month. And what happens is that in the magnetic stirrer, you create a vortex. And that vortex inducts air into the mixture, and it's not a very good thing. But, everything that I do, I've learned it from the photovoltaic aspect of it when we were designing the solar panels. So we're able to get all sorts of concentrations. Right now I'm working on this, I've got a protein biopolymer, and I'm working on attaching the actual oil with the C60 into a gel product. I don't know what that's going to turn out like, but it's very hopeful. And I've already developed a very, very nice cream as well. I'd like to send you a bottle if you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'll never mind.
Yeah, you'll love it, but the results, I don't know yet.
Yeah, that's true.
My wife uses it. Several other people use it. They have really bad skin issues. I have one fellow there. He looks like he has melanoma. I would like to see what happens with that. And
let's talk about the anti-cancer.
And we're working on the pet stuff.
Yeah, I want to talk about the anti-cancer stuff in a moment as well. But so really, you're making the product completely different than everybody else. You have worldwide patents, and I know the last time we talked to you, what you were going to do with this product was make trade secrets. And I talked to some people I know, and when I mentioned trade secrets, their eyes lit up. They said that's by far the best way to do anything because nobody knows what you did.
Well, patents are there to protect an investor, and, we have no investor to protect, so, why disclose the process? I was reviewing my old patents, and I was afraid that, perhaps I disclosed it, but no, I just mentioned that I did it, but I didn't explain how I did it, thank God.
Right, and you've got patents that other companies, major Fortune 500 companies use, like Sony and Apple and Samsung and so forth.
Oh, yeah, and it's all related to the photovoltaics and the display technology. And the C60 was a big part of it, to enhance the conductivity of the different polymers that we used.
Now, you were using a lot of, you were doing a lot with solar panels. So carbon 60 has a lot of value. I mean, it's not just the health benefit. There's a technological value as well. And are they still exploring and finding other purposes outside of natural for the carbon 60?
I don't know. I've dropped out of that race, several years back. They have different, they have different conductivity enhancing molecules, but everything's based on the carbon 60. But what they're doing is they're attaching different polythiophene to it just to enhance the, like I said, the conductivity. But this stuff's here to stay now. And by the way, the gentleman who invented the carbon 60, the Dr. Smalley out of Rice University, I'm actually working with his. He's dead now, but I'm working with his team right now to find economical way to produce it. With this new reactor process. But I can't disclose much of that.
No, I understand. But this is a big deal. So the guy who actually developed carbon 60, I guess he figured out a way, to vaporize the carbon from bark or charcoal or something, and they were able to extract the carbon 60 out of it.
Well, no. In the old days, what they did is they'd take two graphite rods and they'd have a huge bell, and they'd fill it with helium, and they'd zap it, with a super high voltage and create like a plasma arc, and they'd collect the soots out of the bell. It's very time consuming, very expensive, but now we're playing with this new kind of reactor where we're actually using a powder, and it's carbon black, basically. What we're doing is we're massaging the carbon black that comes from the Shunga region in Russia.
Right.
And that's the new game.
Yeah, because shungite is absolutely one of the most amazing things out there. It'll protect, against some of the 5G that's coming out. So I'm kind of excited about shungite. So is this a derivative of shungite?
Yeah. Well, they've got huge open pit mines out there, and it's shungite, but it's carbon black. It's the same material that they use for toner and laser cartridges,
right.
Stuff like that, right? But they have thousands and thousands of tons out there. They're mining it right now. But that's what we'll be utilizing in the new reactor.
You know what's interesting? People hear, wow, they put it in toners and in machines. They're thinking, well, how could that also be the stuff that dreams are made of, that life expectancy is made of? But it's carbon, and this might not be the right word, but if it's malleable in a way that you can turn it into something different, and you can isolate those compounds, you can change the functionality and the purpose of something dramatically. So I know that in the original studies on carbon 60, when they were extracting it, it was Smalley and I think 3 other people. They were able to pull out different carbons, like carbon 20, carbon 60, 70, 100, and 60 was the one that was most plentiful and most usable. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, you're very close. What they do is they drop it through a column, right? And the C60 will fall the fastest because it's the lightest, right? So they collect the C60 first.
And the carbon 60 is very valuable, and it's a unique cage. It looks like a soccer ball, but it has huge purposes. We're just talking about longevity here, but there's anti-cancer things. I know that I have a nephew. He was in for a wedding, and I was talking about the carbon 60 when we were talking about it when he came down for the wedding. He's a scientist and a doctor. So I told him I just did a show on carbon 60. He says, you did a show on carbon 60? I said, yeah, I have carbon 60. He says, you have buckyballs? So I said, yeah, I've got buckyballs. He says, I want one. He says, I came down for a cancer symposium for the Monday, and he says, I want to, we're going to be discussing carbon-60 for anti-cancer purposes. He says, you can come if you want. I'll get you in. I said, well, I can't. It's too short a notice because we were at the wedding on Saturday. But I said, I'll give you a container. But when I came in the next day, there were no containers left. They were all sold out, so I couldn't even give him one. But
email me his address. I'll send him something.
I'll give it to you.
I have 5 cancer survivors now that they swear by it. I'll be interviewing one of them in the next several days, and another one after about 2 weeks. Also, I have a fella who's got liver cirrhosis, and he was on his deathbed about 5 months ago. He's back at work now.
That's insane. I have a friend of mine who's got a buddy who's got liver cirrhosis right now, and he's on his deathbed as we speak. They don't think he'll make it through Thanksgiving. So as soon as we get done with the show today, I'm going to call him and tell him, because this is something that his friend probably would do. It's the easiest thing to do. You pump it in your mouth. You don't even have to hold it for any length of time. And we do it with Apple because Apple makes hydrogen gas and it facilitates the product. Let me ask you about that for a second. Is it better to do the Apple before you spray or pump, or is it better to do the pump first?
Well, I like to use the Apple. I eat the apple first, and then I take the